It's always darkest before daybreak, and when that comes, a new champion from the Targon region appears among the Legends of Runeterra. We're getting closer to the new Call of the Mountain expansion for Legends of Runeterra that's set to release on August 26th, less than a week away. We got some more Targon cards revealed from the Runeterra team today, in addition to the new champion, Leona. In this video, we'll be talking about Leona as well as all of the other new cards shown today, and as always, I'll be giving some additional thoughts on what types of decks these cards could end up in. Before we jump in, if you like this type of content and want to see more, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any future coverage from me. Let's jump right into talking about the champion first, Leona. So Leona is a 4-mana 3/5 with Daybreak, stun the strongest enemy. In order for Leona to level up, you must activate Daybreak at least 4 times. When she does level up, she becomes a 4-mana 4/6 with Daybreak, or when you activate another Daybreak, stun the strongest enemy. Solid champion, but I'm not surprised given the Daybreak cards that were spoiled yesterday. Most of those were very good cards. Leona is the type of champion you will never feel bad about playing on round 4 or even later in the game as your first card in most situations. She doesn't suffer from the weakness that more expensive Daybreak cards have that force you to commit too much mana, leaving you open to getting blown out by your opponent's cards since they have more mana to work with. What's really scary about Leona is that between the Daybreak cards shown yesterday and the other cards shown here today, Leona has the potential to level up immediately on round 4 if you spent the first 3 rounds playing Daybreak cards. Yes, she does not need to be in play in order to level up, which is usually a crucial element when it comes to whether or not a champion is actually playable, but not always. I'm expecting the 3/5 stat line to perform very well on this 4-drop, similar to how much better Shen became once he got the same stat line. Her level 2 is absolutely ridiculous when paired with Raven, who provides constant Daybreak status. You'll need to get both of them to stick, so her level 2 is only truly powerful a little later in the game, but both Raven and Leona are pretty tanky, so I don't think that'll be a huge problem. Even without Raven though, if your deck is dedicated to Daybreak enough, you should be able to activate her level 2 pretty consistently. But let's talk about decks. So there isn't enough shown between yesterday and today to make a full-on Daybreak deck. And in hindsight, that's been the case for the last few spoilers we've gotten, Nocturne and Trundle in particular. So we need to treat this as a core or a card package. The first deck that comes to mind for me is pairing her with Yasuo. It's something I'm personally excited about because up until this point, Yasuo has been forced to pair with Noxus, because Noxus is the only other region that gives enough stun support for Yasuo to actually level up consistently, since Ionia doesn't provide enough good stun or recall effects on its own. With both of them costing 4 mana, I don't think they'll necessarily clash, since you don't always want to play Yasuo on round 4 anyway. There is one instance where you might be able to run mostly Targon cards with Leona, and that's with Nightfall. They actually have decent synergy with each other in that Daybreak can help facilitate Nightfall, but again, the Daybreak cards you're running need to be very cheap in general, so I suspect Leona would be the most expensive Daybreak card in that style of deck. I'd also like to wait for the rest of the Targon spoilers first before committing to an idea like that. In particular, I'm waiting to see if we get Diana as a champion, and whether or not she's going to provide additional Nightfall support. Which I'm pretty sure we will get Diana as a champion, but let's see what gets shown in the coming days. I'm not exactly a fan of pairing Leona with Nocturne, is what I'm really saying. Next we have Morning Light. This is a 5-mana slow spell. You give allies +2/+2 this round. It also has Daybreak, activate all allied Daybreak effects at once, and Leona's Morning Light also shuffles a Leona into your deck. So this is also Leona's champion spell, and I think it almost gets there as far as whether or not this is a good card. This does require you to have a decent board, preferably one made up of Daybreak units, which makes this card less flexible, but that's not even its biggest problem. The card's biggest problem is it being 5 mana and slow speed, and being expected to be played in unit heavy decks that historically want cheap spells in this game. That's what will ultimately hold this card back, I feel. It reminds me of when Iceborne Legacy started seeing play in the early versions of Endure decks until people realized they could just play better cards instead. Maybe I'm wrong. You can practically curve into this after all with 3 Daybreak units, but that's literally best possible scenario and won't happen often. I think in a real game, you'll usually have 1 Daybreak unit in play when you try to play this. Never mind this spell getting countered by deny or your opponent using removal like single combat on your lone Daybreak unit. But this does get more powerful late game. Keep in mind though, your opponent will also have more mana to work with when countering this card. I do think this card is very close to playable, but in its current form, not quite. Next we have Zenith Blade. This is a 3 mana slow spell that grants an ally +1/+2 and overwhelm, and Daybreak, you draw a Zenith Blade. Now this card's pretty good. I think this just barely makes the cut as far as being playable, unlike Morning Light, which almost makes the cut. It's slow speed, which sucks, but it only costs 3 mana, meaning you can play this just with your spell mana without dipping into your normal mana pool. That's something that's very powerful in unit-based strategies in this game, and Daybreak is definitely a unit-based package. The stat buff and overwhelm is permanent, something I'm a huge fan of, and it replaces itself if this is the first card you play. It's kind of a reverse version of Pocket Aces that trades its burst speed for an additional keyword and the ability to replace itself. I think even if we don't see Zenith Blade see play immediately, players will eventually come around to it. Next we have Sunburst. This is a 6 mana slow spell. You deal 6 to a unit and it has Daybreak. Instead, silence it this round and deal 6 to it. Some people are hyping this card up and others aren't. I'm in the camp of the latter. I think this is the weakest card shown today. As powerful as this effect is, a slow speed spell that costs 6 mana and has Daybreak in the first place is a huge turnoff. This is yet another card that puts the weakness of Daybreak on display. Funny, since the art on this card also shows the Sun Guardian card that was spoiled yesterday. Another card that is bad for a lot of the same reasons this one is. The more you have to spend on your Daybreak card, the more open you leave yourself to counters from your opponents, since they'll have a lot more mana than you to work with after you play this. Scrap Shot costs 7 mana, deals 7 damage to a unit, and most importantly is a fast spell, and that doesn't see any play, not even in deep decks. Silencing a unit does not make up for how expensive and slow this card is, whether this will actually be able to silence champions or not. The wording makes it sound like it does, but I'm skeptical. Wording on cards have definitely failed me before in this game. But either way, even if it will silence champions, that doesn't make this card any better. If this costed 5 mana and only dealt 5 damage, it would be better. If it was a fast spell on top of that, it would be way better. And finally, we have Guiding Touch. This is a 2 mana burst spell that heals an ally or your Nexus 2, and you draw 1 card. So we get a non-Daybreak card that was revealed with the Daybreak ones. This is giving me Resplendent Stellacorn vibes with the art. This even heals as part of its text, just like Stellacorn does. I have heard from other content creators that Riot is leaving clues as to who one of the remaining Targon champions might be between this card and Stellacorn, and I'd have to agree. Anyway, this card is good. 2 mana spell that replaces itself and either negates your opponent's turn 1 attack or allows one of your units to live for another combat. That's nothing to scoff at. If there is a healing champion being added, then I could see this getting played in that style of deck. Depending on what other Targon cards we get, I could even see this card seeing play in other Targon decks not focused on healing. Maybe even a combo or control deck of some sort, since those types of decks would appreciate card draw the most. Again, I think this is a good card, but we'll need to get more context from the other card reveals in the coming days. That's all I've got for you today. I hope you enjoyed this look into Leona and the other Targon cards that were revealed. If you did, feel free to leave a like, as it really helps me out and gets this video out there to others in the community. If you don't want to miss future coverage of the new set from me, subscribe to the channel and don't forget to hit the notification bell below to make sure you know when the next video goes live. Feel free to check out the other Legends of Runeterra videos that I have on the channel, or even the other places you can find me on the internet. You'll find links to my Twitter, Twitch channel, and our community Discord that you can join as well in the video description. Thanks for taking time out of your day to watch this, and I'll see you next time. Take care.